All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the wild neuroscience behind why the exhausted, completely drained teenager isn't just a tired cliché. It turns out it's a hardcore biological reality. And honestly, learning about this completely changes how we should look at the teenage brain, its relationship with rest, and why staying up super late isn't just a bad habit. It's actually rooted deeply in how human beings develop.
We all know the loop, right? It usually goes a little something like this. A teen gets maybe 5 hours of sleep. The next morning, they wake up groggy, they struggle to focus in class, they get irritated over the absolute smallest things, and they completely forget what they studied the night before. And then, by evening, they're right back in bed, scrolling on their phone until 2 a.m. again. It is a deeply frustrating cycle for everyone involved.
And boy, does this create a massive disconnect. Parents look at this behavior and almost immediately interpret it as pure laziness. Meanwhile, teenagers, they just think they're natural night owls. But neuroscience tells a completely different story. It's neither laziness nor a simple preference.
So, let's hit Section 1, the myth of the lazy teen, and the brain's massive renovation project.
You know, it's a massive myth that a teenager's brain is just a smaller version of an adult brain. I was honestly amazed to learn that the human brain continues developing until around age 25. During adolescence, it isn't fully baked. It is a highly active construction site undergoing one of the biggest remodeling projects in human life.
This brings us to a seriously fascinating process called synaptic pruning. It's where the brain actively removes unnecessary neural connections and strengthens the important ones. Think of it like renovating an entire city while people still live inside it. The brain is becoming faster and more efficient. But here is the absolute catch. This crucial maintenance cycle acts like a nightly cleaning crew, and it almost exclusively happens while they sleep. If they don't sleep, the construction crew literally goes home and the renovation halts.
Moving right along to Section 2, the biology of teen sleep and why 11 p.m. is the new normal.
The biology here is just wild. For kids and adults, the sleep-inducing hormone melatonin generally kicks in around 9 p.m. But for teens, that melatonin spike is naturally delayed by about 2 full hours, not hitting until 11 p.m. Yet early school schedules still begin bright and early at 7 a.m. So because of that shifted biological clock, asking a teenager to be sitting at a desk ready to learn at 7 a.m. is literally the biological equivalent of forcing an adult to wake up at 4 a.m. every single day. When parents say, just go to bed earlier, it sounds incredibly simple, right? But biology says otherwise. It's a fundamental mismatch between their internal clock and the external world.
Which leads us to Section 3, memory and emotional control, and the true cost of staying awake. Think of sleep as the brain's own personal memory factory. When a student learns new information, it's temporarily stored in a region called the hippocampus. But deep sleep is what actually transfers that information into long-term storage. It acts exactly like the save button on a computer. If a teen studies for 5 hours but skips sleep, that save button never gets pressed, and half that hard-earned information is just gone. Poof! Sleep isn't the opposite of learning. It's an absolutely essential step of the learning process. But it's not just memory taking a hit. Emotional control completely vanishes. Think of the amygdala as the brain's emotional accelerator. Well, after sleep deprivation, it becomes highly active. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which acts as our logical brakes, essentially stops working altogether. You are driving a car with a stuck accelerator and zero brakes. That explains exactly why sleep-deprived teens have such extreme mood swings, irritability, and impulsive behavior. Small problems suddenly feel like the end of the world. And this loss of emotional control, it cascades into a really vicious cycle when it comes to mental health. This is actually one of the most alarming discoveries in modern psychology. Poor sleep significantly worsens mental health, increasing the risks of anxiety and depression. But then, poor mental health makes falling asleep much harder. That leads to chronic sleep loss, which drastically increases emotional distress. It's a terrifying, self-feeding loop. That's exactly why improving sleep is often the very first recommendation in psychological treatment. Sleep is quite literally emotional medicine.
Now for Section 4, smartphones as the ultimate sleep thieves and the modern culprit tricking the brain.
Look, we all know smartphones are master manipulators, but when a teen is staring at their phone in bed, the blue light is physically suppressing their melatonin, tricking the brain into thinking it is still daytime. Add in social media, keeping their emotions highly active, notifications building this endless sense of anticipation, and games spiking their adrenaline, and it's a total recipe for disaster.
Even after they finally put the phone away and the screen goes dark, the brain remains fully alert for up to an hour.
When you combine this shifting biology with these modern digital disruptions, teens face a massive array of invisible consequences. We're talking lower grades, major memory problems, slower reaction times leading to increased accidents, and even weight gain alongside reduced immunity. They experience extreme mood swings and risk-taking behavior. But honestly, perhaps the scariest consequence of all is their absolute inability to judge their own impairment. Because of how the brain works in this state, they often genuinely believe they are functioning completely normally, even as their cognitive abilities plummet.
But there is hope. Let's get into Section 5, How to Reclaim Sleep, and the biological prescription for success.
The completely non-negotiable biological requirement for the teenage brain is exactly 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, period. That is the fundamental prescription for a healthy mind.
So how do we reliably hit that 8 to 10 hour mark? Well, sleep has to become an investment. That means building strong habits, like keeping a consistent bedtime. And yes, that means even on weekends. It also means going strictly screen-free 1 hour before bed to fight off that melatonin-destroying blue light. Getting natural sunlight in the morning helps reset that shifted biological clock, and exercising regularly during the day makes a huge difference too. Finally, keeping the bedroom cool, dark, and quiet sets the ultimate stage for success. They seem like small habits, but they make a massive difference.
Sleep researcher Wendy Troxel perfectly hit the nail on the head when she said, "Sleep isn't a luxury, it's a biological necessity." A teenager's brain doesn't get stronger by staying awake longer and pushing through the fatigue. It gets stronger, faster, and healthier by resting well.
So, we've unpacked the biology, the hidden costs, and the undeniable benefits of a truly rested brain. We expect so much from teenagers, yet we often deny them the very biological process required to succeed. So I want you to ask yourself a serious question. Are we setting our teens up to thrive, or are we just watching a sleep-deprived generation try to stay awake at the wheel? Tell me, how many hours did you and your teen truly get last night?